Hi, and welcome to the Simple Worship Conversation, the morning program with Shannon Moore
Yes.
and Jessica Vacketta.
Hello, everyone.
You've been on quite a bit recently. This is our last week looking at the Good Trouble
Passages.
So,
Ready for something new?
ready for something
I mean,
new.
good trouble's always good.
That's true.
But-
And I've got some news for the Simple Worship community at the end of our time today. So,
We have to wait?
we'll wait.
Okay.
We'll
I guess you'll have to stay tuned.
So today we are in the Gospel of Matthew,
Yes.
and we are in the 9th chapter. I'm gonna read parts and like skip a little bit, and you'll see what I'm doing. It's kind of
I hope
long to read the whole part, but let's just say that Jesus has been healing. He's been calling. He's been doing some miracles. You know, the religious leaders don't really like that, and we've talked about that before. So now he has, he's at a banquet.
Okay.
He's at a dinner. Okay, you ready? This is Matthew chapter 9. I'm going to start at verse 10 and then read verses down through about verse 17. Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
Here we go. And as he sat at dinner in the house, many tax collectors and sinners came and were sitting with him and his disciples. When the Pharisees saw this, they said to his disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" But when he heard this, he said, "Those who are well have no need of a physician, but those who are sick. Go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice. For I have come to call not the righteous, but the sinners." And then John's disciples come and want to know why they have to fast and the Pharisees fast, but Jesus' disciples don't fast. And he says that the wedding guests can't mourn when the bridegroom is with them. And then he says, "No one sews a piece of unshrunk cloth on an old cloak, for the patch pulls away from the cloak and a worse tear is made. Neither is new wine put into old wineskins. Otherwise the skins burst, and the wine is spilled, and the skins are destroyed. But new wine is put into fresh wineskins, and so both are preserved." All right. You know the drill. I'll start our 10-minute timer now. All right, Rev Vacketta.
Okay.
What is Jesus talking about? So he's in trouble because he is eating with sinners and tax collectors,
Right.
which is frowned upon, apparently, by the religious leaders. And then
They're known as the undesirables. I remember that from years from seminary, I think. That sinners and tax collectors that kind of paired together. It's when you're talking about a undesirable group, at least the writer was.
So what does this bring to mind to you in our current context? Because he says those who have, if you're sick, you go to the doctor. You don't go to the doctor if you're not sick. He desires mercy, not sacrifice, or he's quoting scripture. "I have come to call not the righteous, but sinners." Let's talk about that a little bit.
You know, it's so, I think what he is getting at here is, these people need me more than you do. Maybe. I don't know. But I struggle with this passage because I read this as Jesus is spending time with those who are hurting, with those who are broken, with those who are, sick, like actually like physically sick. You know what I mean? And so he, I guess in this phrase would be, the doctor or whatnot, or in this metaphor would be the doctor. And so he's spending time with those who are not whole, or who as society perceives as not whole.
Okay.
But I struggle with this too, because we've had other conversations, like, the disciples of John come, the Pharisees are there, and they're super judgy. Like, when I read this passage, it just, it makes my skin crawl a little, because I'm like, why are you so judgy? Like, Jesus is here to be with everyone, to try to help everyone, and you're just so judgy.
But is he? I mean, because he says here, I'm here for the sinners, not for the righteous. And so he's isn't he referring to the Pharisees as the righteous?
Right. I'm saying that John, not Jesus, isn't judgy.
Oh.
Yeah. No.
Okay,
No.
okay.
No. No, that's not what I was saying at all.
But
Sorry.
my question is he here for everybody?
Oh. Yeah, that's a good question.
And I've always struggled with this little parable about the patch and the cloth and the wine and the wineskins. What does that mean to you?
That's always the one where I'm like, I need to look up what exactly this means.
And you never have.
I don't know if I have. The wine and the wineskins, I did at one point. But new wine put into old wineskins, otherwise the skin bursts and the wine is spilled out. Like if you want, you have to have fresh wineskins for
new wine.
For new wine.
It's, it has to do with the fermentation and all of that. And then, of course, with the...
I don't know. Have you looked up the unshrunk cloth?
Just
on
that...
an old cloak?
Just that if you patch a hole with cloth that hasn't been shrunk, when you wash it, it's going to shrink, and then it's going to pull on the... whatever you put it on, it's going to mess up the garment.
That makes sense.
But what does that have to do with anything, is my question. What is Jesus talking about? Is he talking about the old covenant, the new covenant, like the mixing of the two, like it's either or? Is it what is he talking about?
Is it I don't know. Is it also like these like religious leaders and these disciples and kind of like the old, more established community versus the new community, new people? I don't know.
As we're talking, I'm wondering if it's you are laying old ways, you're trying to apply that into this new way of life, and it doesn't easily work.
Right. I mean, even if we think of like the church now, like old ways, we've talked about this before. We have a certain language that we use, like within the church. Like, let's even just say this building in general. The porte-cochere, the narthex, the chancel, like all these words. And someone who has never set foot in our building or who has never been around here at all would be like, what the heck? At least I was the first time. I was like, what is a porte-cochere?
Right.
But so I wonder if it's...
And acronyms.
Yes, acronyms. Oh my gosh. CYF, Cairo, CWF, yeah.
The church that the Disciples of Christ Church that I was at in North Carolina was very small. We didn't even have youth group, and so when I got to Texas and all those acronyms, Cairo, and that's not an acronym, but I didn't know what it meant. There's all of these things, it's this coded language.
You need a glossary.
I did.
Yeah.
And so I see what you're saying there. Like that is off-putting. That keeps people out.
Right. And I think sometimes we get more upset about. I don't know. I wonder sometimes if you don't understand something or some of that language, you have to spend a little more time explaining what it is.
And there's this expectation of what you should and shouldn't know as
what you should and shouldn't do
but as a church person, not necessarily a follower of Christ.
Yes.
Which can be two different things. So do you think then here as we're talking about that the Pharisees and even John's disciples, because John was a revolutionary. He pushed a lot of buttons. Yeah. Even his disciples were critical of Jesus' disciples. And like, you're not following these rules of fasting. Like, we fast.
We fast, the Pharisees fast, but yeah.
So, what is Jesus getting at here with this new thing? Like, is he telling us that this is a new thing? All the rules have been changed. These old rules don't apply? Or...
I wonder if it's more of a we need to make space for these new rules. We need to think about, we need to think about these old rules. We need to think about, like, why we do these things.
Mm-hmm.
And why not everybody has to. I don't know.
Maybe it's just time for new wineskins.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if the old wineskins burst when they're filled with new wine,
then you just need to get some new
then
ones.
did we just need new wineskins?
Yeah. And
do we just
until you get new wineskins, the old ones are going to keep bursting until you don't have any. Like, you're forced to get new wineskins.
Right.
You have to get new wineskins.
And if your garment has a hole in it, do you just need a new garment?
I always say yes, which is, I know, coming from an extreme place of privilege. Maybe that's why I don't understand. What do you mean you have to put a patch on something? I tried to do that before.
I think if Jesus were telling this in present day, he would talk about inkjet printers.
Oh.
Like,
say more about that.
Well, it costs more to replace the inkjet cartridge than the printer costs, which is ridiculous.
It is.
And so, when you just get a new printer or get a new TV or whatever, we don't really repair things like we used to.
Right. And we should, because a lot of things go to waste.
So, but anyway,
that's a whole other conversation. Sorry. I know, I'm like, let's...
For people of faith, what is Jesus... This is just so interesting to me. These two concepts.
Sometimes I think he's saying we have to let go of the old things. We have to, we have here this new covenant that you mentioned, the new commandment, love God, love your neighbor. Not saying that you completely forget all the other ones, but sometimes we hold on to those old wineskins, those old garments, our old way of thinking so often. Sorry.
So are these connected then? Is when Jesus says, I have come to call not the righteous but the sinners, is he saying that we've spent too much time had been spent focusing on the righteous?
I think he might be.
And now the new focus is on the quote, the sinners or those the hurting, and what does that say to us? How much is that a call to us to not look at what we need as
much of what others need.
As much of what others need.
I think why I struggle with this text is I get hung up on that tax collector and sinner phrase,
Go ahead.
Which is why like I mentioned earlier, I think I appreciate more from my setting and trying to understand this story here. Those that are like known as undesirables in their community, and Jesus spending time with them and saying it's important for me to do this because
as followers of Jesus, it's important
for us to do that too. Yes, because you've spent. I think that you were onto something there too, though. With we've spent too much time looking inward and looking at ourselves instead of looking outward and looking to the others that we can be with and help and.
Okay.
I don't know.
Interesting, but hard.
It is hard. This is a hard passage.
It is. Thank you for
Good one, though.
tackling it with me.
Well, I wish we had more time to discuss. I always wish we had more time to talk, but this one especially, I'm like, I feel like we were just getting...
Yeah, that's okay.
Somewhere.
That's good.
Anywho, good times.
Now, I have some news to share with you about Simple Worship. So, this will be our final conversation that premieres on Sunday at noon. The conversations are going to continue.
Yes. Do I get to come back at some
point? Of course. But what we're going to do is Simple Worship as a worship service will be a Zoom experience in real time, live at 9:30, just like normal. Returning to a little bit.
We're going to celebrate.
So check the website so you can register and get that Zoom link to worship at 9:30 on Sunday mornings. And then the conversations will be available on Facebook and YouTube and all that good stuff on Wednesdays at any time you want to watch it. So that's what's happening. That's the shift that we're making.
Very exciting. Very exciting news.
So we had a little test run last Sunday.
How'd it go?
It went fine. So hope that you will join us for Simple Worship on Sundays at 9:30, and then the conversation anytime you want to watch it on Wednesday.
I wish there was a way you could work Zoom in there.
What do you mean?
Simple worship?
Oh.
That sounds horrible.
On that
Sorry.
note, we will say goodbye and have a great week.
Bye,
Take care.
everyone.